is a super special episode because it is the 50th episode of the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast. I can't believe that I have gotten this far in a podcast. I started it on a bit of a whim to see what would happen, but I am so glad that I have continued to grow the podcast and to provide all of this wonderful information for birth and postpartum workers in growing your businesses. But for me, this is really, really extra special because I found out recently that not even 50% of podcasts that are started get past the 10th episode, and only 8.5% of podcasts get to the 50th episode. So I am super excited that I have made this achievement, and I want to celebrate with all of you the fact that we have gotten this far together, that we do have 50 episodes. And if you haven't listened to them all, go back and have a listen. I went back and had a listen at the first couple of episodes myself today in preparing for the celebratory 50th episode. And I thought I was going to be a bit embarrassed actually going back to the start, but I was quite impressed. I think my first couple of episodes were pretty good. Now, they were very short. They were only 6 minutes long, and that included the introduction. So they were really, really short episodes, but I really felt that the information was good, that the quality was good, and I was kind of impressed. Yeah. So if you haven't gone back to the start, definitely give that a go. But really, I really want to thank all of you for continuing to support me, for continuing to listen, for subscribing to the podcast, and for joining us in our various communities as well. So thank you so much to all of you for all of that support and for helping me to keep going to get this far to 50th episodes. So I just want to take you back a little bit to the beginning there. And I know I said I just listened to them, but when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anyone who made a podcast. I didn't understand how to do it, but I just thought I was going to give it a go. I joined some groups. I kind of got a bit of an idea of the basic tech that was needed to set it up. And really what I did at the start is I just recorded it onto Zoom. And then I found someone on Fiverr and I got them to edit it for me because I definitely wasn't going to have the time to be able to do that. But the reason why I started it is because I really wanted to be able to share my business and mindset knowledge and the things that I had learned and the things that I continue to learn with other birth and postpartum workers, because it had been such a struggle for me to get to the point where I was actually making money from my business, where I was feeling supported in my business. And it had taken me so long that I felt that I had information that I could share with other people that would help them get there quicker, or more importantly, stop people from leaving the industry. And this has come up again. You know, when I started the podcast, there was just so many people I could see on Instagram and on Facebook who were saying that they'd either gotten a different job, like an employee job, or they were just quitting because they didn't have the time or the mental space or the energy to keep going. And if they were actually making a living from their work as birth or postpartum workers, I don't feel that they would have given up, or that they would have felt the need that they had to get kind of more of a 9 to 5 type job to support their families. And it's like it's coming in waves, because I'm seeing it happening a lot on Instagram again recently. I think I've seen about 5 different people that I follow announce the closure of their businesses, which it hurts my heart, because I know they're wonderful people. And I know they have so much love and support to give new families, and I really wish that that wasn't their reality. So part of the podcast was to stop that from happening to other people. And I really do hope that if you are feeling that you can't make this work, that hopefully the podcast will help you, or come join us in our Facebook group, or join my email list. These are all free support that I give to birth and postpartum workers who want to grow their businesses. And while I had been supported by podcasts, so when I was trying to figure out how to actually make my business work, I did a lot of listening to podcasts. So one of them that I listened to a lot of was Online Marketing Made Easy by Amy Porterfield. And she has actually just finished that podcast. I think think she had it going for 10 years, and she started a new one called the Amy Porterfield Show, which is a bit more advanced. It's for people who are further along in their businesses and I'm looking to scale, whereas the Online Marketing Made Easy was really for people early in their businesses. And I found loads of help and support from that podcast and from a bunch of other ones as well, including Annie and Leah's lactation business coaching podcast. That was really good as well. But I did find outside of Annie and Leah's that a lot of the podcasts that I was listening to, they weren't related to birth work, and they didn't cover topics always in a way that was relevant to the way that we do our work, or that kind of aligned with the values of our work. So when I wanted to create this podcast, I really wanted to make sure that it was focused for birth and postpartum workers. So anyone working in the perinatal space, but working for themselves. And that it also had a value element to it, as in my values came true in that, and the values of most of the birth workers I know came true in it as well. That it was about growing our businesses in an ethical way, always keeping our parents, as in the parents that we support and the babies that we support, central to that, while also looking after ourselves financially, spiritually, and emotionally too. And I found that a lot of the business podcasts that I listened to, while I got little bits and pieces that were really helpful for me, a lot of it really wasn't relevant to our industry. So I felt that I could really, really help other people by bringing a business and mindset podcast that was relevant to us, and that you didn't have to kind of sift through for hours and hours and hours to get things that were basically going to help you. And over time, the podcast and me have evolved along the way. So I have my episodes are quite often a lot longer than 6 minutes now. When my solo episodes, they tend to be somewhere between kind of 10, 12 minutes, sometimes up to 30 minutes. We'll see how long this one is. And then my guest episodes. So I started bringing in guests as well. And I think this has been really, really helpful for people to hear other people's stories and how they've grow in their businesses, or in things around self-care and mindset, because it's really hard to grow a business if you're not looking after yourself. So a really important part of this podcast has been on that self-care and on that business mindset end of things. So not all of my guests are birth and postpartum workers, but they all have an understanding of supporting parents and supporting babies. And every guest that I've interviewed, I felt aligned with them in that their ethical standards were similar to mine. So that has been really important as well. I've had a lot of really, really interesting guests along the way, and every one of them has brought value in so many different ways. And each interview is different because people are different. So some of them, there's lots of storytelling, there's lots of back and forth, and some it's a bit more like an interview where I'm asking the questions and they're answering. And if I try and think of some of my favorite episodes that have been released so far, because I do have a few more guest episodes that have been recorded but not released. Definitely one of them was my conversation with Fiona Ray, who is a lactation consultant here in Dublin as well. And we talked about community over competition and how both of us support upcoming birth or lactation workers in building their businesses, even though it could be seen that we're in competition with them, which if you've been listening to me for a while, you'll know I don't believe. But that was a really, really good chat. And Fiona and I know each other very well. So it's kind of like listening in on a coffee date of two people. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, you'll love my conversation with Fiona. So more recently, my favorite episode of this year has been with Dr. Jenny Turner, who is a clinical psychologist. And we spoke really deeply about topics like shame, guilt, imposter syndrome, and just a lot of these feelings that can come up for us as women, as entrepreneurs, as mothers, that we probably don't talk about enough. And also about not just talking about them, about how to support ourselves in them and how to move beyond some of those feelings that aren't helpful for us. So that was probably my favorite episode of this year so far. So if you haven't listened to them, I highly recommend that you go back. Now, not only am I celebrating the 50th episode, I am also celebrating some wonderful nominations for some awards. So firstly, I was nominated for the Family Edit Awards, and that was in the pregnancy and baby category. So I was very excited to have been nominated for that. Now I haven't made it into the finalist of that because it was a popular vote nomination, but I was very excited to be nominated anyway. I have also had word of an award that I've won that I can't actually tell you about yet, but it will be coming out very soon. And that is around my antenatal education part of my business. So I'm very excited about that. And most excited now, I will admit, this is my most nomination that I'm most excited about. I have been shortlisted for the Friends of Breastfeeding Awards for the Social Media Supporter of the Year, which is absolutely amazing and came totally out of the blue. So if you're not in Ireland, Friends of Breastfeeding is a volunteer organisation and they run yearly awards for breastfeeding supporters. So it's kind of like the Oscars of breastfeeding support here in Ireland. And how it works is that public or the client or your clients or anyone really can nominate you for one of 13 categories of awards. And a few years ago, I was so eager to be nominated for the Social Media Supporter of the Year. And it was really something that I was trying to manifest. It was something that I was really excited about. And then it never happened. And it probably never happened because I never put any action in, I suppose, or maybe it just wasn't the right time. And I'm really, really starting to come in line with that things will happen at the right time if we do put the actions in place. So this year, when I got the call, well, I got an Instagram message first, and I thought I was being scammed. when I got the call to say that I had been shortlisted. So what happened? Sorry, is the public nominate people, and that goes to the Friends of Breastfeeding Committee, and you don't know that you've been nominated, okay? And then they sift through all the nominations and they shortlist them. And then 5 people are shortlisted for each category. And they said that in the Social Media Supporter of the Year, this was one of the categories that they had the most nominations for. So it was, I'm presuming it was hard to get into the shortlist if they had the most nominations for this category. So when I heard that, and when I got the call to say that I was on that shortlist and that I would be going to the award ceremony, I was just so excited, like honestly, ridiculously excited. It's just such an honor that people went out of their way to nominate me, to fill in the form, to go into all the details of why they felt I should be nominated. And it just makes me really happy that people would do that, and that somewhere along the line I am making a difference. And then also that the judging panel or the shortlist panel, that they felt that I was worthy as well, and that they thought I was worthy of shortlisting. So how it works then is they send you a free ticket to attend the event, and it's on the 29th of March, so that is just in a couple of weeks. So I'm very excited to go. I won't be writing my acceptance speech just yet. There are the people I am in the same category as with, I mean, their accounts are far bigger than I am. They would have a lot more PR behind them, but I am very, very excited to be in a category with such amazing people, and really just to enjoy the event and have a great time. My good friend Fiona Ray, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, she was voted as Lactation Consultant of the Year last year, so she has a honorary part at this event as well. So I'm very excited to spend some time with her at the event. These different nominations, though, they did bring up some interesting conversations in the local birth and postpartum world here. So the Friends of Breastfeeding one, as I mentioned, that's a public submit, and then the committee shortlist, and then it goes to a judging panel at the awards ceremony. Whereas one of the other awards that I was nominated for, the next step of that was to join their website as a paid member to process into the next stage of the competition, which I decided I was going to do. But there is some kind of controversy, I suppose, about this idea about paying to be part of awards. Now, I don't think it's that controversial, personally. I think that it's a business model. It's the way that a lot of these things are done. So if you see a lot of the awards that are out there, the pregnancy and baby awards and Mums and Tots awards and all of those type of things, people have paid to enter them. You don't get to pay to be a winner, but you do have to pay to enter them. And the fees can be quite a lot. So there's been a lot of chit chat about whether this is ethical, whether it's correct, how people feel about it. And I feel that it's okay. You know, I feel that if you're not just paying to get the award, as in like I pay a company money and then they tell me I'm a winner of something, you know, that's a little bit underhanded. But if I'm paying to enter a process, enter a competition that people are putting their time and energy into, and that's part of their business model, then, ethically, I don't see any concerns with that. Am I going to pay to enter a load of awards? Probably not. But, never say never. I did sign up for the membership for that nomination. As I said, it wasn't very expensive, so I was happy to do so. But some people did decide not to sign up to go further in the process. So I'd love to know what you think, actually. Do you think it's unethical for these organizations to be asking for money for the nominations, or do you think it's unethical for people to pay money for these to be in with a chance to be voted for these awards? I'd love to hear what other people think. For me, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Like I said, I'm not sure it's all for me, but I'm okay with it. But there are the awards like the Friends of Breastfeeding Award where no money changes hands, where it is very much got to do with the public and a judging team. So there are different types of awards as well. And this excitement brings me on nicely to sort of tell you about something else. And I'm sorry, I am only sort of telling you about it. So there are some changes coming up to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective that I'm really, really excited with. And I'm feeling like, I don't know how to say this other than in a very Irish way, but I'm feeling totally buzzed about it. And it's kind of bringing me back to the start and why I created the collective and what I wanted for the support that I could offer in it. And I think this is really going to help so many of you who need a little bit more support in building your businesses and in working through with your mindset stuff as well. Because again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I really, really believe that your mindset is your biggest block or your biggest asset in your business. And I'm really hoping that this project, let's call it, that this project that I'm coming up with will help birth workers and lactation workers and postpartum workers grow your businesses in ways that suit your needs and your family life and your timeline and your availability. So I'm putting that together in the background at the moment. You don't have too long to have to wait to hear about it if you are on my mailing list, that is. So if you're not on the mailing list, get on that now. There's probably, if you join a Facebook group, actually, if you give me permission, I just add your email to the mailing list. So you can do it that way. Or you can sign up for one of my freebies that are available, and that allows you to the mailing list as well. So the people on the mailing list, because they are my inner circle, and the people in the Facebook group, they are going to hear about this first, and they're the only ones that are going to get the opportunity to be part of it as well at first. So if you think this might sound exciting for you, do make sure you are on the mailing list or you are in the Facebook group so that you are one of the first people to hear and to be invited. But it is something that I'm just like, I'm bursting. If I could tell you all about it now, I would, but I wouldn't be doing it any justice because I just need to tease out a few more of the logistics around it. But I'm really, really excited about it. And in the meantime, what I'm doing is I'm back doing the live Q&As. So either on Instagram or in the Facebook group, you have an opportunity every week to send in your questions and I will answer them live on video on either Facebook or on Instagram with the information that I have that will be able to support you to do that. And some of the questions that I get, if I feel that they really need a deeper explanation and they need more time than I can give them in a live, then I'm going to bring them onto the podcast and answer them in podcast episodes. So some questions might get a full deep dive on a podcast episode, or some might get shorter they might be mixed into an episode in a few different bits. So you can submit any questions for the lives or for the podcast via DM on Instagram, or if you are in my Facebook group, you can add your questions in there as well. So I'm very excited about that. But I also have something that is really exciting for people. So for this month, so the month of March 2025, if you submit a question for the live or the podcast or whatever it is, then you are going to be entered into No. So by you submitting your questions, that really, really helps me ensure that the content that I'm creating for Instagram and that the podcast is really addressing the challenges that you have and making it the most helpful tool that I can create for you for free. So please do get your questions in, because I really, really enjoy reading them, and I really, really enjoy answering them as well. So just to wrap it all up, once again, thank you for continuing to listen to the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for leaving your reviews. Actually, if you could do one thing for me today on this 50th celebration, it would be to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. I would be really, really grateful if you could do that, or if the place that you listen to your podcast allows you to leave reviews. I would love if you would do that for me today and celebrate with me, celebrate this 50th episode, celebrate my nominations in the different categories that I'm very excited about, and celebrate yourselves, celebrate everything that you have worked through so far, the growth you have made yourselves in the last couple of years. Celebrate the milestones, the big and the small ones. My baby, my little boy, turned 9 last month. So my youngest child is 9 years old, and I'm about 9 years in birth work as well, because it all started around then. So celebrate how far you've come, celebrate your transitions, celebrate all the progress that you've made. Even if it doesn't feel like it, look back, there has been progress, and just see where you have come and how life-changing it has been for you, and also for the people that you care for and that you support. And as I mentioned, if you are not on my mailing list yet, you want to get on that mailing list, so you will be the first to hear about my new project that I am so super excited about. And also, I send lots of good information in there at different times. I talk about podcasts, lots of different things going on in the mailing list, so make sure you are in there. And again, send me in your questions, your DMs for the lives, or to be covered on the podcast, because I'm really excited to be getting into that again as well. So thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for sharing this experience with me, and I will talk to you all again next week.